What up? Getting ready for week 4 of the NFL season. Technically, it's already underway with the Thursday night game, but we'll be breaking down that full Sunday slate and looking at some of the top props at No House Advantage. Pete McCarthy, Geoff Ulrich with you as we get going. I mean, Jeff, it already feels like a season of attrition with all the injury updates coming in across the league. The Saints are going to be decimated for that London game against the Vikings, it looks like, offensively. A lot to keep track of across the league right now.
Yeah, there is. It's weird because we haven't had that many star injuries, you could say, but the volume of it is, it's legit. And it's on both sides. It feels like there's been more defensive stuff too to keep track of. So kind of a weird year for injuries. The volume is high, but yeah, we haven't lost any true studs. I mean, obviously Tua last night, that's big and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not discounting that, but there's just a lot to keep track of. And it feels like a lot of guys are just questionable every week right now. So I don't know, I guess it's a typical NFL season, but we're definitely in it now.
It is what it is. Yes, we're in it now. It's week 4. It's still September technically, but it'll be October by the time we're talking about football on Sunday. I'm ready for my Mets today, too, taking on the Braves. Big series, and at least on the line, so I'm excited for that. So I'll give a little shout out there. Hey, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much more. Once you do subscribe, hit that notification button, get alerts when our shows go live. Be sure to also check out today's premium tools and data, which are MLB Top Stacks. And if you're still playing MLB DFS, which of course you are, don't forget that everything we have to offer for MLB night slates on DraftKings is also 100% free for the remainder of the season. Gives you a great chance to give our tools a shot before purchasing them. Just click the DK Night Owl link below to check out tonight's tools and projections. And that's some phenomenal stuff. Obviously, week from today, we're going to be starting up the baseball playoffs, and it'll be a big 4-game slate all day long, which will bring some fun, so you can get ready for that. All right, we're breaking down No House Advantage this upcoming Sunday. We've got a lot of props to dive into: quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. There's one tight end on the board. Just what you're looking at in terms of the contests this week. $20 entry, $20,000 to first place, up to $3,000 in the contest. There's also a $5 entry, which will go $1,000 to first place. And keep in mind, we got that early start on Sunday. Don't go out Saturday night, get blotto, and think, I'm going to wake up at 10 a.m. Eastern on Sunday and be just fine. No, you got that 9:30 start time with the Vikings and the Saints. You want to lock everything down Saturday night, unless you're an early riser, and then you can handle it Sunday morning. And a lot of injury updates in that game that are going to be affecting us here, Jeff, as Alvin Kamara is questionable. Looks like Andy Dalton will probably be a quarterback for the Saints, and Michael Thomas is out. It's that Chris Olave prop kind of pops, even if it's a relatively high number for a rookie receiver.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I like the big thing about Olave to this point of the year, just all the air yards, guys. I mean, Pete, I mean, these air yards, I just keep them in my fridge. I mean, so important, but I mean, it is an important stat. It's, it tells us who's getting targeted deep and who's got the potential to, cash in for some big games going forward. So Olave is interesting. I mean, it's a big prop at 68.5. And I like this a lot more if Jameis was in there, but it's going to be Andy Dalton. So, right off the bat, we can talk about Olave. I mean, he's projected as what we call probably top 10 play for an under. It's just a big point projection or yards projection, excuse me. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one. There's just so much uncertainty with it. I mean, if you said, I look at the Olave prop, Jeff, and it's I just don't want to deal with it. That's fine. I mean, look, you got
a lot of options.
Exactly. That's the nice thing about the Sunday slate. You don't have to do that. And I think that's fine. That's kind of how I feel about it too. I mean, I see it. It's too big, but no Michael Thomas. Olave's getting all these downfield targets. He's also really good. Maybe Andy Dalton, just decides to chuck it up there and let Olave go to work. It could absolutely happen. So, let's look at it better, because you're right.
Andy Dalton's not the guy who's chucking it up to Olave down the field and let him do what he does best. But Alvin Kamara, if he does play, remember, he's got the rib issue. He's going to be questionable. That's going to be one you have to wake up early on Sunday and see about. You're looking at 3.5 receptions, 28.5 receiving yards. We know Kamara, he put up numbers with Drew Brees as that quarterback. Jameis, Taysom Hill, those guys haven't been as likely to check it down to Kamara. So maybe that's one that factors in with the injuries.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd rather look, if Kamara is healthy, I think that's a good point. I'd rather, take the overs on Kamara. And it's a weird situation with him. Like he hasn't been like an RB1 yet, but part of that maybe is Jameis at quarterback, and part of that is maybe the rib injury. So, with all the news and Thomas out, like you've got to figure if Kamara starts, this is a spot for him to get going. I mean,
oh yeah.
So really, again, like this is the week where we're in it now. Like we said off the top, man, like you have to start digging into the injury reports. You have to start seeing, is this guy banged up, or is he just, is it just questionable? Can he actually play through it? If Kamara's out there and he's fine, he can play through the pain. Like I would definitely lean over on this game on him. I think Dalton helps him. I think Thomas being out helps him from a receiving standpoint. So, we don't have Kamara projected. We have a lot of unders projected. Again, Dallas advantage. The props tend to be higher, but Kamara is not a guy we have projected for like a massive under here. So at least not to the extent of like Olave's prop. So I think that is a stance you could take with the Saints injury news. And that's one way to play it is take Kamara and just say over if he plays.
How do you want to go here, Jeff? Do you want to go by position? Do you want to go by game? Do you just want to look at some of our favorite props that we have on the board this week?
Why don't we talk about position? I mean, I think the quarterback position is pretty interesting. I think there's lots of opportunity there. There's, again, like the props on No House Advantage tend to be just higher across the board. So you can look at it two ways. I think there's just a lot of what you call layups here that we and some of them we have projected as layups. And what I'm talking about is just taking the unders on a lot of these quarterbacks. I mean, you've got a 265.5 passing prop on Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff, even when he plays well in the Detroit offense and they move the ball, like he has not been a quarterback who's stretched over this mark at all. So asking him to go for like 270, that's a lot. And look, like Seattle's defense, it's not good. And this could happen, but like it is projected as our strongest under on the yardage total. And I don't have a problem with it. But there's two other quarterbacks that I think are just as strong plays, and that's Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan. I think Ryan is in a spot where he's playing a weak secondary too, but you've got Jonathan Taylor going up against what is potentially the weakest rush defense in the league through 3 weeks. So I just don't think the volume is going to be there for Matt Ryan. He didn't even approach this target last week against the Chiefs. And then you've got Carson Wentz at 251.5 playing the Cowboys, who are they're just stifling in pass defense right now. And I know they played Daniel Jones last week, but they shut down Tom Brady in week 1, too. He smashed his under. I think Wentz at 251.5. These are ones you should be looking for your 10 through 7 spots, like your high point plays. I really like the unders on these, what we'll call nicely mediocre quarterbacks.
Well, one thing you see on No House Advantage, just about every quarterback is going to have a prop at half an interception. Carson Wentz is the exception. He has a 1.5 interception line here. And look, I know the Cowboys can get after it a little bit, and they force a lot of turnovers, and we know Wentz is one to let the ball get away, but you're looking at keeping him under 2 interceptions in a game. I think you get a reasonable shot at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, that might be one where you game theory, where I think a lot of people will look at that and be like, well, we're getting the 1.5 line. Let's hit this under. I mean, how bad can Carson Wentz be? He's been good. And look, like the under is projected for us, but it is one of those props where I think it just sticks. It's going to stick out to everyone. Like, okay, why do we have like the 1.5 in this spot? We'll just play the under. So I actually think that's a good one to game theory. And again, you don't have to put it in your 10 spot, but I think because so many people will have it high up in their lineups, if you put it down in like your 2 spot and those lineups bust, you're good. But at the same time, if it doesn't hit for you, you're only wasting like a 2-pointer or a 3-pointer on it. Your lineup could still be live, right? So that's kind of how I like playing that. I'm also not a big Carson Wentz fan, so I mean, I want him to throw multiple picks every week. I always cheer for him too, but that I think that's an interesting prop. I know it stuck out to me. It's like, ooh, this is going to be juicy for people potentially. Like it's probably going to be like a slate maker. Like I think it's going to be one of the heavier owned props. So I think it's a good one to maybe take some leverage on. I mean, the Cowboys defense has just been turnover machines. So.
Well, it's interesting, right? If he throws for under 250 passing yards, you could still very much play against Carson Wentz and just do it in a little bit of a different way. And if he throws that second interception on like a Hail Mary at the end of the game, then you're going to be in real good shape with how things shake out for Carson Wentz and the Commanders this weekend. So that's one of the quarterback props we can look at. Another one that popped, just looking at our projections, which for No House Advantage are free over at Stokastic. So be sure to check that out. You go Stokastic's NFL menu projections, and then you'll see NHA projections down there as well. Justin Fields 1.5 passing touchdowns. We have that as a pretty significant under. I think if it was just like Justin Fields 1.5 touchdowns, it would be pretty close. Yeah. But passing touchdowns for Justin Fields, we just haven't seen that.
I mean, there's just so many ways this can go under. Like the game, I mean, itself looks like it's probably going to be like setting us back to like the 1920s.
Graham Gano could be busy again.
You know that like where it's just like, the Tecmo Bowls, like you call the plays, it's just fullback sneak. Like that's what this game feels like. Right?
I was thinking like when you on defense pick the correct play, the same play as the offense, and then they'd all just blitz in at the same time. I feel like we'll see a lot of that on both sides of the ball. That's the game.
Yeah, that is going to be this game. That's exactly what it feels like. So Fields can run it in. The Bears, actually ran the ball quite well last week with Khalil Herbert, and Montgomery's still questionable. So yeah, I'm not going to make this one. I'm not going to make the same argument for this one where, oh yeah, you can get some leverage on the field. You probably can, but like, wow. I mean, asking Justin Fields in the Bears offense to throw 2 passing touchdowns feels like a lot right now. So I don't know. The Wentz and the Fields props are really interesting. Obviously the Fields is going to be heavy on one of these, but I would actually feel better about the Wentz interceptions as like the kind of the sneaky leverage play.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it because, look, No House Advantage, you're not only trying to go 10 of 10 on these props on the board. If you haven't played No House Advantage, ranks, you have your number one prop that's worth 10 points. The next one's worth 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, all the way down the line. So you want to get 10 of 10, but you're also playing against the field. So if you could be the only one that gets 10 of 10, you're getting a much bigger pot at the end of the day, which when you're talking about the long run, puts you in a real good situation. So it's something you want to keep in mind with some of these leverage plays as you're talking about, a little different than just straight up betting props. And of course, if that's what you're into, you can play against the house over at No House Advantage as well. Anything else on the quarterbacks? You want to move to running backs here?
No, I mean, again, like Pete just mentioned, I mean, like this is obviously we're talking about, GPPs and stuff like that. And we're not just playing, it's if you just go in and play the best plays, that's fine. You probably have a chalky lineup, but you can think about, taking what we'd say is taking the lower probability side because no one else is going to do it. So when we're talking about things like, going over on props that we're projecting for unders, that's just, that's what we're talking about. But no, nothing else. I mean, Davis Mills is kind of interesting to me. I know the Chargers weren't super great. That's another spot where I don't think many people are going to be on the over. We actually have Davis Mills projected for basically neutral. Like he's got a 1.5 passing touchdown prop. We haven't projected for like just under that. So basically, like I said, pretty neutral. I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, the Chargers have been kind of bad in the secondary, which is a little weird. I not something that I think most people were expecting from them.
Banged up.
Yeah, banged up for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like Davis Mills to me is like is a pretty competent quarterback. I don't think he's like the next star or anything, but I don't mind that one at all. So that's another spot where I think you could potentially, make some go against the field and feel good about it, just as a leverage play.
Hey, get access to expert sports betting tips straight from your favorite Odds Shopper personalities with our Odds Shopper Premium Insider. You can click below to browse packages from 6 of our experts, and with each, you'll find a coupon for your first week completely free. With each package, you'll get access to their Insider subscriber channel in the Stokastic Discord, as well as other Odds Shopper betting channels available. No cost to you to give this a shot for a week, so click below. Get started now. And it's fun in those Discord chats when, let's say Eric Lindquist is throwing out some MLB props on a given night. Everybody's rooting for Aaron Judge, hit 62 and into it and feeling the sweat. You get to kind of do it with some people. Pretty fun stuff. So be sure to check that out and more information below. All right, let's get into the running backs here. You mentioned Khalil Herbert earlier with the Bears. I mean, we'll see with Montgomery, whether or not he's able to play. If Montgomery plays, it's an easy one. You pound the under at 60.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think so. I mean, again, like it is a spot where, okay, I mean, you could look at it and say, is this where I go against the field? Because if Montgomery's there, I mean, everyone is piling into this. This probably will be the most owned prop, even higher than like the Fields and the Wentz spots. So that's something to consider. Herbert was really efficient last week. And like, there's an argument here where is Montgomery active just to the point where he's just on the bench and is like an emergency option and the guy's going to take 5 carries. That's kind of what we saw with DeAndre Swift. Remember, the last 2 weeks he was active, but he wasn't the main carry running back. Like this could still be the Herbert show. So like we talked off the top, this is the week where you need to be diving into the injury report. Like you need to like be looking up beat writers on Twitter. How hurt is David Montgomery? How active is he going to be? It's not just good enough to be like, oh, he's active, I can just go against this. He might not take many snaps if he's active. And then this would be a great over spot to go against the field. I mean, we haven't projected for the under. It's obviously factoring in the Montgomery news as well. And I agree with it. I mean, I'm not suggesting like it's wrong or anything, but just a really interesting spot. This will be the most owned prop if Montgomery is active to take under on Herbert. So keep that in mind. It's one, I think if you get really solid news on Montgomery too, just take it. Like just take the free spot. Don't overthink it. But
can you just move it down to make yourself different? Like instead of making that your 10-point play, you make it say your 3-point play. Is that a worthwhile strategy?
It all depends on the news you get with Montgomery. If we get Montgomery and the beat writers are like, he's playing, he's active, everything looks good, I would just put him in the 10-pointer, quite frankly, because this is too big a gap. Like 60 points for like an RB2 who maybe is going to get 30% of the carries. That's tough. But if there's any like, we don't know how active he's going to be, he's going to go give it a go, I would definitely think about moving it down, potentially way down to like, like a 4 3-pointer, like you said, 4 or under. That way it's not killing you if it goes, and you still will gain leverage because I think there will be still a big group of people who just put it in one of their higher spots. So it's a really interesting spot. These props are like, this is easily the most kind of, strategy week I think we've had from like just a prop standpoint, where a lot of these are going to turn on some news potentially if we even get it.
Well, we got some news today. DeAndre Swift is not ruled out completely quite yet, but he is likely to be out according to the head coach Dan Campbell. So Jamal Williams, 66.5 rushing yards is the line. Our projections have that as 79% over. This is the only really big over on the board here. He's projected for 87 rushing yards. That feels like a big number to project for a running back here for the Detroit Lions. But what do you make of Jamal Williams, who might very well be popular this weekend?
I know it's a little suspect, right? Again, like good arguments that Williams is gonna do well this week. But like there's different ways that Williams can do well. I mean, he can catch 5 or 6 passes as and get there from that. Seattle's rush defense is also like, they've started out the season kind of poorly, but this was a pretty strong team against the rush. If I'm remembering correctly last year, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm going to look this up really quickly, but like, I kind of feel, they were. So like they were top 3 in terms of yards per carry against. So you kind of think that may normalize going forward a bit. And Jamal Williams is a versatile back, but he's not DeAndre Swift. He's not going to break off like a bunch of 25-yard carries or 40-yard carries. So there's some worry. Like the volume will be there. And I think this is more of a projected over from a volume perspective. He's been the dominant red zone back, even when DeAndre Swift has been in there. Now no Swift. Like 20 rushes is that's probably what his projection is. So it's a strong over for us. I don't know. This one, again, going against this one feels a little bit scary just because, like the volume is going to be there.
Well, how rare are you hitting an over on these, right? When everything is so, hit the under with the projections. Yeah. It's almost exciting to see an over up there. You get to put something positive.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we're always looking for advantages and ways to get over on the field, but like, I think that you'll need the other thing is like, you'll probably need the Seattle offense to do really well for Williams to get his carries taken away, which is taking your life in your own hand. You're basically trusting Geno Smith and Pete Carroll to put together like an awesome game plan. So I actually see this game going in Jamal Williams' favor where Seattle's probably passing late again. So yeah, this is a strong over. I think he probably gets there.
You know, lines are a pretty big favorite this week. And I don't remember the last time the lines were
scary.
given like
No,
5 points or something like that. Right?
First time they've been home favorites since Dan Campbell took over. So just crazy when you think about it.
Running backs. Let's see. Maybe we'll quick hit a few guys that our projections really like. How about James Robinson looking at the under at 63.5 rushing yards for Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think that's a strong under. They're playing Philly. Philly's defense is good. I mean, their rush defense wasn't great to start the year, but they've looked better. That one's an under for me. You also have Etienne who could get more involved. I think Jacksonville's going to be behind in that game. So that's an under for me.
Tony Pollard is splitting with Zeke. He's kind of the big hitter, looking at 44.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, coming off a good week. I mean, interesting, but Pollard did do most of his work on like limited touches. So again, probably one that I would stick with the under on as well. Maybe the field might look at that and go, oh, we smashed this last week. So I think that's actually a solid one just to stay on the under.
Miles Sanders is at 67.5. We have that as a strong under.
Yeah, these running backs where, Boston Scott's getting mixed in, you've got a rushing quarterback. I mean, I like the way Miles Sanders is running. The Eagles are a really good rushing team, but we have it projected for about 5 to 6 spread. And it just feels like Sanders is probably going to land somewhere between 60 and 70 yards. So with the prop at 67.5, I'll take the under here.
I know house advantage, what we're talking about in their pick'em tournaments, going head to head with other people. You get into these GPPs, you have a chance to hit for some big money. Again, it'll be $15,000 or $20,000 in the top contest this week, $20 to get in. So be sure to check that out. You can also test your skills versus the house and get 20 times your entry if all your picks hit. You could do multiple sports in there as well. So you can sign up now with the link below to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $50. It's up to $50 from 25. So you get yourself some free money there. So be sure to use that first match deposit bonus with the link below. You can also check out our NFL lineup generator for No House Advantage, which you can find in the video description below. Daily fantasy sports has been redefined with No House Advantage, so be sure to check it out now. All right, we've got a few minutes to break down the receivers. The big one that our projections were pointing out was Garrett Wilson under 58.5 on the receiving yardage line. He does have Zach Wilson back. I don't know if that helps or hinders with what Joe Flacco's done the last few weeks, at least putting up some yardage there. But the rookie Wilson obviously has a lot of ability, going to be going up against the Steelers defense Sunday.
Yeah, no, it's a funny spot because I wish we had a Zach Wilson prop here because I do like the Jets. I mean, just from a passing standpoint, I think they're going to put up more yards. I mean, you got 2 fast-paced teams this week. The Steelers pass rush is down without TJ Watt. They played a fast pace as well. The secondary just hasn't been good, been giving up big plays. But Zach Wilson is back. And if you look at where Zach Wilson was targeting, he was targeting Elijah Moore fairly consistently last season before, the season ended for both those guys. So I don't really know about Garrett Wilson here first week. I mean, he could just get peppered with targets. I think he's a little bit of he's a little bit of a pass for me. I just don't know if there's too many uncertainties for me to have a hard take, but I don't really have a problem with taking an under on him either. I think I would go under on, yards versus the receptions is something to argue. I think the yards, we just have a bigger discrepancy between the sports books and it's also projecting as a better under for us on the yards. So I like that. I think Moore is the better downfield target anyways.
The receivers are a little tougher than the quarterbacks and the running backs to predict. Are they not? There's a little more, volatility with the receivers. Do you stay away from them on No House Advantage? Limit how much you go when it's a single game? You have to get in there. Is it worthwhile to kind of these guys can go above beyond one play puts you over? I think
it's a good point. I think the best way to put it is if you're going under on a Wilson prop, it's definitely a bottom half play. It's a 4 or less probably. Even though it's projecting as a pretty strong under. Again, it's Garrett Wilson get 2 catches for 59 yards. I mean, that's in the realm of possibility. I just mentioned the game flow. It's going to be a good game environment for yards, I think. So that's what worries me a little bit. But he is the only Jet on the board as well, which is I'd love to correlate this somehow, but we just don't have.
Michael Carter's in there for the running backs.
Mike Carter's in there. And his reception prop, actually, it's funny. I mean, his reception prop is interesting. The Jets running backs, like the reception has just been like yin and yang, but they are throwing to the running back a lot. But another spot where a new quarterback, like probably just better to lay off, I mean,
yeah, Zach Wilson doesn't dump off as much as Flacco and what we saw last year.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to again. So Wilson is definitely like someone I would consider for an under, but it's just more of like a bottom third play for me.
We got a question from Nick in the YouTube chat about the Jaguars passing props. So Christian Kirk at receiver, we are looking at 70.5 receiving yards. If you want to jump in on Lawrence as well.
Yeah. I mean, Lawrence to me is a solid under. I think that like this Philly pass defense, maybe it was a little soft week one, but like, this is not a good spot for the Jags to go off, at least in my opinion. You might see Evan Ingram pop up a little bit in the middle of the field. Christian Kirk could be okay because he plays a slot. But we do have him projected for under 5.5 receptions. I'm just trying to look for his yardage prop right now, but it's
70.5.
70. Do we have him projected for under that? I assume. Do we have him projected for 70.5?
No, that's the line.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like a big prop for Kirk. I mean, it's against the Eagles. That's massive. Like, it's just, I don't want to project any wide receiver going up against that Eagles secondary. So I actually think that's a good pairing. Like you could take those two, Lawrence and Kirk, and pair them together in a ticket or in the pick'em contest. And then you could maybe come back on the other side and you could look at, maybe some kind of Eagles over, maybe AJ Brown. I actually think AJ Brown's in a pretty good spot this week. But yeah, maybe Miles Sanders or you like take Hurts over. But yeah, I'm not bullish on anything Jaguars passing offense this week.
Do you have a best receiver play?
Let's see here, top of the board. I mean, we've talked about a couple of them. We talked about like the Olave prop, Garrett Wilson. Just going down the board. I mean, like Justin Jefferson. Again, like we can talk about going against some of these bigger numbers. I mean, I think the sentiment around like Justin Jefferson right now is negative, but like 6.5. I mean, we were getting 7.5 prop totals on Justin Jefferson to start the year. I mean, it's not outlandish to think like we would have had them throughout the year. Like this prop could have been like 7.5 or 8 if he had started fast. So he's had a couple slow games. He's still Justin Jefferson. I think this is actually a good one to go over on, to really take a stance on, with the low sentiment and it being 6.5. 6.5 may seem high compared to the last two games, but again, like you go back 3 weeks, his prop was probably 7.5. It wasn't probably, it was. So I think that's like a place where you could look to maybe just differentiate and go over on. Justin Jefferson, a guy, yeah, good, like just a good buy low target, and buying low here just means going over on some of his props this week. So let's see. I mean, yeah, like McLaren is another receiver you could probably think about going under on, just a tough matchup. We just talked about Kirk. Again, Brown is another receiver I think you could kind of take a stance on and go, go against the field, because I think 80-yard prop, essentially 79.5, people look to go under on that.
And Devontae Smith had the big week last week for Philadelphia. Right. They could spread it out a little bit. Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways. Once you do subscribe, hit that notification button and you get alerts when our shows do go live. Jeff, any final thoughts as we look ahead? We still have almost 2 days until we fully dive into all this, but it's going to be an early start on Sunday morning.
No, I mean, yeah, early start. Obviously, I think the big thing for this week is there's opportunity for reading the injury report. I really just like hammer that home. It starts with the Saints Vikings game, but like it extends throughout the slate. You've got the Bears, who news on Montgomery could really just shift like where this Herbert prop is going to land. Mm-hmm. And then you've got spots throughout the board. Like, I mean, I didn't bring up Jonathan Taylor. That's another star who I think people are just going to be like out on, like, oh, it's a 100-yard prop. Give me a break. This guy sucked 2 weeks in a row, but it's playing potentially the worst rush defense in the league this year or this week. And, I mean, like Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, these guys were hitting overs on these props at like a really obscene rate last year, even at 100 yards per game. So don't forget about the studs just because they had a couple of weeks. I think it's a good good time to maybe go over on a couple of them, even though the field will be leaning well under.
We got a lot happening here at Stokastic. Just hit 80,000 subscribers yesterday. So we appreciate all of you guys for getting involved and following us here at Stokastic on YouTube and making this happen. We've got a lot to come. Big Friday night baseball wise, Jacob DeGrom on the hill for the Mets. MLB Deeper Dive coming your way at 4:45 Eastern. That'll be followed by Live Before Lock. And then, of course, you can tune in Sunday morning for full coverage of Sunday's NFL slate, starting a little bit early over there in London. For Geoff Ulrich, I'm Pete McCarthy. Good luck.